So, welcome again to another episode within Series 1 of Pod Talks. Welcome and thank you for your time feeding back for that feedback we've seen so far, but also giving us the opportunity to talk everything people, organisation, development. As always, I've got my trusted lieutenant with me, Mr. Tom Davies.
Hello.
How are you, Tom?
I'm very well indeed, thank you, Graham.
Excellent. And what have you been up to and how's things been since the last time we met?
I've been working with Burnley Football Club, their community house. It's been exciting.
Wow, fantastic. That is very exciting. Anything personally? Because obviously that's a work scenario. Anything personally that been of significance?
Personally, I went for a walk with my family at Hebden Bridge in Yorkshire, where I'm from.
Beautiful, love it. And Yorkshire is obviously a wonderful place. So thank you, Tom. Tom will be back a little bit shortly with some more factoids. And we've also got another wonderful guest with us today in Anthony Hudson, and Anthony has got lots to share with us, which we'll get into the nitty-gritty of. But how are you, Ant?
I'm very well, thank you, Graham.
Excellent. And how's your day been so far?
My day's been good. It's been quite eventful. Been at church today at Harvest Church where I go. We had some guest speakers from South Africa.
Oh wow!
Who came in today and ministered. And part of my role there is I go and pick them up. So I had to come pick them up this morning.
Superb.
Yeah.
And he's even found time in his busy schedule to come and speak to Pod Talks today, which is pretty incredible, right, to get to that point. South Africa, whereabouts are they from in South Africa?
They're from Johannesburg.
Oh, Johannesburg,
Yeah.
Yes. I used to live in Pretoria and work in Sandton. I know South Africa very, very well. Love South African people. It is one of the best places on this planet. But anyway, we'll come back to Ant a little bit more as time goes, but welcome, a very warm welcome from myself and Tom. So, first and foremost, as I know you guys will love by now, I'm going to pass you on to our math genius in Mr. Tom Davies, and he's going to take us through some new factoids linked to people, organisation development. What you got for us, Tom?
Well, today we're looking at the area of employee engagement, and the fact dug up for us is that a whopping 80% or 87% in fact of millennials say that professional development and career growth is significant to them. And since millennials have surpassed Generation X's as the largest labour force, this statistic cannot be annoyed. Annoyed?
Right.
Shall I say the whole thing again? We cut it out. No, alright. Well, if you understood any of that,
Thomas.
for tripping over my words, that's 87% of millennials say that career growth is significant to them, and they make up the largest portion of the labour force.
So you're right, by 2020 we now know that there's going to be at least 50% of millennials in the workforce. For those who are not aware, millennials are those roughly born from the age of, from the year of 1982. Mm-hmm. But just on that statistic, so you're saying
87, yeah.
87% of millennial want career progression.
They say that professional development and career growth are significant to them.
So the professional development is something that we're going to talk with Anthony today, being a professional development practitioner. But so I get that. That's obviously how we grow people, how we put systems in place to help them develop and learn. But from a point of view of career development, did you find any more information on what that really meant?
Well, to again put a percentage to it, companies which engaged employees in personal and career development, those employees outperform those without any input by 202%, and that was a Dale Carnegie survey, so it's quite a credible one, and that is staggering. Again, more than double the people who are investing in that. But again, we've talked about before, really putting a metric to helping people develop is perhaps more difficult than looking at other metrics, kind of sales for the week as a standalone. Again,
so 202%.
Yeah.
Better efficiency for that organisation with a people organisation development process
in
policy in place.
Yeah, with a formalised policy in place, there may be kind of something.
So that's a no-brainer, right, for businesses.
Yeah, in short. So, and again, another statistic, another factoid, which is looming large. It's better understood than it was certainly 12, 24 months ago. But the apprenticeship levy is has an influence and is payable by every company with a wage bill over £3 million. That's half of 1%. So a lot of companies are paying this levy, and a high number, less so again than when this new apprenticeship initiative was launched, were treating this as a tax. So they were putting this money into a pot, and then it would be kind of a rate of attrition because the pot expires after 24 months. It was just another tax. They felt it was, or it wasn't well understood, whatever the reasoning is. And this is money that is wastage for a lot of companies, but could be put into helping people
Right,
develop.
right. So we put them two statistics together, and I know we're simplifying it, it's more
Yeah.
complex than that. But
Mm.
so what we're learning is millennials, 87% of our millennial workforce, and we know that's going to be 50+% by 2020.
Mhm.
They want career progression and development,
Yeah.
learning development, and we know that organisations that give that, they get a better efficiency productivity output of children 2%,
Yeah.
according to this report.
Yeah.
And then we also know that certain organisations have to pay that 0.5% of
Yeah.
£3 million budget above,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
payroll above. And that could be anything from tens of thousands of pounds to hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of pounds, if not
To
millions,
millions of pounds, yeah.
of pounds. And therefore some organisations are not even utilising that, so that's going back to the tax man, which is
Yeah.
good obviously for UK PLC, but
Mm.
that's a no-brainer for businesses, right?
You'd think so, yeah.
To pull them two things together and say, well actually let me use that money
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to make my business better through my people.
Are they all aware of this though?
Well, that's a great question. That was my next question is why is this? Why have we not got every organisation in the United Kingdom delivering that? That's a big question, isn't it?
I mean, at TFL we're looking at apprenticeships quite a lot now.
Right.
It's becoming a word that's coming up in every conversation we have about, we talk about development and looking at new ways of doing learning and courses. Everything seems to be going towards apprenticeships.
And do you know what the driver is? Is it because it's that big pot of money that they're not utilising?
I guess the financial side has a part to play because where you could draw down. So I guess that does play a big part in it.
Fantastic. And you think about that, don't you? You think to yourself, okay, well, we want people to deliver training. We hear that from our customers, if you like, in organisations, which is our millennials, and we're only focusing on that because that's the factoid you gave us. But if we think about that, they want this, and the business is having them as an internal customer. So surely we would want to do it from a people point of view, but actually financial directors or controllers are looking at the money, rightly so. So as learning practitioners, we have to try and justify that business argument, don't we, from a spend point of view. I wonder if it was the other way around, where the business was losing that amount of money, not to the treasury, and actually that then went into, they were cutting training and development. You could probably understand that relationship, but with a relationship where money is going to the taxman that's not paid for, and we can see that internal custom wants that training, learning, career development, you would think to yourself, wow, boom. And is it because businesses are so busy that they're trying to drive things, they're not aware of it?
Could be a factor. I mean, it's interesting that that you said about millennials who want to be developed, and I guess if you was to kind of roll it back, the generation before were quite happy to get in a role and stay there for ever and a day, and they was happy, but now, you find that people want to progress, so those stats actually do kind of bear up. People want progression, they want development, so, and that's something you see out there.
It's incredible. And we're going to come more into that, Anthony, in particular, very shortly when we go through our questions with Anthony, because he's got some fantastic insight to his own personal professional development and currently what he does in his current role. But Tom, thank you very much.
You're
Brilliant
welcome.
factoids,
Pleasure.
as always. I love that section because it provokes conversation, and the research is quite founded, isn't it, whatever way we want to look at it. So moving back into you, Anthony, it's now all about you, and what's really important before we get into the nitty-gritty of your role and everything else is, for the benefit of our viewers and audience, share a little bit more about you. Who are you? What are you about? Your background? Where have you come from? And what's your journey been like today? Just for a moment or two, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. I left school back in '79.
Still a young whippersnapper then, right?
Yeah. Straight from school. By the time when I left school, I already had a job in Royal Mail. So I left school. If I'm honest, didn't really. The education side of it, I left without any. To be brutally honest, I left without any education at all, and went straight to work. Wanted to earn money, so I went straight to work for Royal Mail as a young postman, then a postman. But the beauty of that is I learned to drive, and it cost me 0 pence. So
they put you on a driving course.
On a driving course, yeah.
So you were bombing around the streets of London.
Oh, yeah, age of 17, 18.
17, in a lovely big red van.
Big red van collecting mail and stuff. So yeah, and then I left there and then went to work at London Underground in 1988, and I've been working at London Underground ever since. up to this present day. So that's approaching 31 years. Been working there. Yeah, but various. I haven't just done one job, so
yes.
This has been a good thing. You know, I've done various roles in there. You know, from a guard on the train to a train driver. And then I went into training, and that's where I think I really found myself when I got into training. You know, as a trainer, and then from a trainer, I've been moving into lots of projects, a lot of project work, and then to the current role which I'm doing now as a professional development manager
for the TFL. So, and we'll come more into the detail of that very, very shortly. So quite an interesting background, quite a fascinating background.
I mean, even with that, I've whilst working there, I've also done some other stuff as well in you know, Premiership football. You know, been working in that arena as a steward, as a assessor and an internal verifier. So that's been pretty good as well. You know, which
has all funneled you into this professional development role, isn't it? Which is really interesting.
So I've kind of been a pathway to get to where I am now.
Yeah, and although it's really commendable, you've been 31 years in one organisation. You've actually not only done that, but running parallel, you've always had other jobs. So you've always been on a parallel learning path, haven't you? So that's you've seen lots of different
about 18 seasons. So yeah,
18 seasons. Yeah. Incredible, isn't it?
Professional football, yeah.
In professional football, exactly, and no doubt you used to play play a lot of local football.
I played a lot of football. Yeah, I played up to semi-pro standard. So yeah, I've always enjoyed my football. So yeah.
Superb, excellent. Thank you, Anthony. So that's really good to hear your background, and obviously we'll talk more about that as time goes on. So what we're going to do now is go into our standard 3 questions, and this is an opportunity to learn and listen on Anthony's journey, which I think is fantastic. So I'll start off with thinking about your personal and professional career highlights, and I think it can be anything. It can be 1 of each, it can be 2 of each, 3 of each. Think about your personal career highlight and your professional career highlight, and where would that be, and what was that about, and how and why is that such an important highlight for you at this moment in time? So over to you, whichever one you'd like to start off with.
I guess we'll go with the professional one to start with. You know, as I say, going back to working at the post office, you know, that was quite a insightful times. You know, as a young man growing up. As I say, you know, I learned to drive, which was really good because it kind of gave me something to kind of really focus on, you know, from a very, very young age, and you know, just the fact that I was chosen actually to you know to do this, and it was really because of my footballing skills. If I was,
For what reasons is that then?
Kind of a little bit of a frame because you know when I was playing, I was a goal scorer, the main goal scorer.
Really.
And I was one of the last ones to actually come in at that point, and then I was chosen above from some of the others, you know, who was like, oh, hold on a minute, why is this happening, you know? But I know why it happened. And
so they put the star striker in the van to look after your legs to make sure that you wouldn't lose that opportunity. That's clever.
You know, so and that served me well because you know once at 18 you become a full-time postman. You know, the walks were not really for me, so I had a license, so I went straight into the vans and started driving. So you know that was a good thing. Quite early on, then I transitioned into London Underground. And you know the whole thing around training has been with me quite early, even when I didn't think of myself as a trainer. As a guard, they used to put people with me to train to do the job. You know, and you get paid a little extra. But it was that from then people used to just give me people to train, even though training wasn't a thing that I thought that was in my mind at that point.
Why was that? What did they see in you that they wanted to put other people with you to learn from you? What was going on?
It's hard to say, you know. But I don't know. They obviously saw something. I guess maybe it's the way I did my work, you know, and you know, they should just you know say we've got someone new. You know, do that, take them out and show them the ropes, basically, so to speak. You know,
maybe your attitude of wanting to help.
Yeah,
played a part.
I guess going back from a young boy, I've always been that kind of helpful type. You know, my nickname was Smiler because always smiling. You know, if someone says you want to do something, I'll be like, me. You know, so I guess it probably that sort of thing was coming kind of so they could see that in me as a person. You know,
positive energy, willingness to learn. They're really important skills, aren't they? You know, for anybody. In any walk of life.
That kind of proactiveness. And you said you didn't recognise it early that was in you somewhere. But did you enjoy it even that early?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. I used to, there's a certain buzz you get from teaching people and seeing someone learn, and then you see them actually going and doing the job and the role. And going forward, that's the sort of thing. As I got more and more into training and learning, that buzz just became even more. When there's just a buzz about watching someone develop from something to something real progressive, and you just think, wow, that's really, really great. It's not about me, it's them, watching them grow. It's about that growth, so.
Which to me suggests that's a very intrinsic motivation of why you want to work with people. And it was interesting, you sort of touched upon there the extrinsic motivators, which could be materialism such as money, and you were like, you got a little bit, but that wasn't a drive for you.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to people and learning, you've got to ask that question, aren't you, when you're working with learning practitioners or professional development sort of practitioners, is that, I always look at individuals in this environment and I think to myself, well, where's your motivation coming from? Is it intrinsic or is it extrinsic?
Right.
And I've come across a lot of people who have been extrinsically motivated. What's in it for me? What do I get next? This, that, and the other. And struggle to get that satisfaction and reward by helping somebody get from A to B.
Yeah. And
then you get people such as exactly what you're saying, which is the intrinsic motivation, which is along the lines of, okay, well, you know what, I'm doing this because I love teaching. I am empowered to enable others, and therefore them others get a lot out of it, and that gives me a sense of satisfaction and reward.
Oh yes, definitely.
That is amazing, isn't it, from a learning perspective?
It is, yeah. Because from there, I actually got into training. So this was from training, like from guards to training drivers, and then from there, I kind of got the training bug, and so I wanted to go do training full time, and it wasn't for want of trying, because I had to apply 3 times before I actually got the role. First time, I know I messed it up the first time, so that was fine. And then the second time, I applied the second time and didn't even get the interview, which is kind of a bit strange.
Okay.
Yes, but so I had to refocus. Right, okay, then that never happened. So ripped up the CV, done a brand new one, and I went for it the third time. And then the third time, I actually got the role.
When you said you had to refocus at that point, did you get any feedback, or was it just intrinsic thinking to think, I haven't got it, I need to do something different, I'm going to change my approach, I'm going to rip something up, start again? What was the drive?
It was the change, because the first time I got the interview, then I used the same CV for the next time. I didn't get an interview at all. So I was like, okay, so right, so this isn't working, right, we need to now look at a fresh approach. Change, ripped up the CV, written a new one, and a new covering letter, and I got through. I got through that time, the third time. But I think for me it was just not to give up, because it's quite easy. People just say, oh, you know what, I'm not doing it again. And that's one of the things I impress on people, that keep going, because I could have just said, a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't go no more, don't do it anymore. And I thought, no, I want to do this role. So, for me it was just, if I'd have failed that time, I would have gone again.
Wow.
So
which I think is incredible, because that's not only resilience, but what's really important there is that actually you're saying to yourself, no, I'm going to get knocked back, I'm going to have a knockback, and I'm actually, some people might see that as failure, but you know what, that's what I want to achieve, and I'm going to make that happen, and I'm going to find new ways to get to that point. That is quite powerful, isn't it, from an intellect in internal perspective.
A difficult thing to do, to kind of cycle through that and frame things that haven't gone the way you want them to first time, go again and again, and that resilience agenda is huge through schools, and it does take most people time and kind of acceptance to get to where you want to be, and I think that's a great bit of inspiration there. Just keep going, because you can let it go one of 2 ways. It's either you can let it feed back negatively and think, I've not got it because I'm not right, or I'm going to go again and go at it differently, and that's huge. And what you've done there, it's really hard to do for a lot of people, really hard to do, and that's a great story. Now you're in that role, and sounds like you're thriving. We'll come on to that.
That's right, because you're right. You say you used the word like failure. You're not a failure. Maybe your approach isn't right. You've got to kind of look at yourself and think, why is it not working? Don't always blame what's going on in front of you. Sometimes you need to look in the mirror, look at yourself and think, okay, what's not quite working here? Go back through your stuff and think, well, Am I not hitting the right bits or saying the right things when the interviews, when you go through the interviews, you know? So yeah, it's sometimes some self-reflection.
Self-reflection. I was just thinking that, and actually, it's also a skill set of emotional intelligence. But I do wonder, because you know that emotional intelligence is being able to empathise, understand, put yourselves in other people's shoes, have a really analytical thought to yourself, and all these other facets fall under it. But did you ever along that path get feedback to help you think like that? Was it just something that's naturally within you?
I think that, I say the first time I got feedback, because I really did mess it up, and then I mean it was just the nerves kicked in, and I was had to do something on a flip chart, and I had a marker in my hand, and I kept clicking the top and closing it as I was talking. I didn't even realise I was doing it, and the person who was doing the assessment at the back, when he gave me feedback, he just wrote on the piece of paper, stop clicking that, boop, pen.
And that still sticks with you.
Yeah, that sticks with me. I was just clicking it, and I didn't even know I was doing it at the time. You know, so that's the feedback from me. The second time, didn't get any, just
self-reflection.
Yeah, you know, just you haven't didn't even get the interview, so that was that. So
which is superb. And I guess your driver for that self-reflection was because you wanted to achieve that aim, that goal that you set for yourself. You saw that you were in that environment. So from a point of view of all the other organisations and obviously working in TFL as you do now, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that with Tom shortly, but from a point of view of a professional career highlight, could you pinpoint one aspect? I get that obviously your personal career highlights have been quite several and quite phenomenal in what you've expressed, but is there anything that sticks out in your mind which was the moment for you from a professional career highlight perspective?
I think from because one thing I've always wanted to do was to get into the point where I've always been in roles where we haven't really managed people, and in me I know I can do it, but the opportunities were not there or not coming up, or when I did go for some opportunities for it, again, you know, I didn't quite get through, and you know, I thought to myself, you know, I'm just gonna keep going, and I guess the role I'm doing currently, it does require me to manage people, which has been really good. You know, so it's one of those that you tick boxes of things that you wanna, you know, you want to achieve. You like to manage people, and you know, now you sort of like, you know, I'm working on that level with like the heads of departments and the stakeholders, and recently had a presentation with the managing director, and you know, sort of like
so getting that exposure and educating everybody else around you.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, and I guess, you know, because you know, as I said earlier, you know, I'm a member of a church up in Wembley, and for me, there it's been a highlight being there is that because I manage volunteers. That's a totally different thing to managing, you know, paid staff, because you've got people there who, you know, their heart is in it to do it, and they're not going to get paid, you know, and you've got to manage their expectations, and then try to, you know, again, it's about development, because you know a lot of the guys have never been developed, never been. I guess I could say I've taken what's outside and brought inside in a development way and in a business way, and they can sort of think a bit differently. Well, this is church. Well, no, actually, no. There's a way that we can do this, and how you can progress. And you know, to be able to inspire them and teach them, develop them, and watch them now, it's just absolutely amazing. So just watching these people grow in front of my eyes, where they're narrowing themselves into leadership, that's probably been one of the big things for me. You know?
And that's such an interesting point, isn't it, when you say how they've blossomed, and you're saying it as a leader, but they're now in leadership positions, and that is incredible, because that to me is what leadership is very successful at. If the leader can be in the middle rather than the top, so it's not hierarchical, and actually that sort of view or boom moving out from you as an individual to everybody else around you for allowing them to progress, isn't that leadership? Isn't that modern day leadership, allowing others to grow and blossom, even if that means to become better than us, because we're all different?
Yes, right? That's something I say, you know, as a leader, you should be prepared to lose your role to someone who you've trained and developed, you know. Which
is a hard concept, because it's self-preservation, isn't it, for people, our design in some respects, and maybe that's where leadership is not good, is when we've got individuals who have a psychology of, I'm going to self-preserve my position and what I have, and I'm not going to let anybody else in, and I'm going to be the kingpin. And you know, can that be effective? That's an open question mark. But we know what you're saying is being effective, because you've got volunteers who are inspired and happy, and they're not getting paid, which is harder to motivate in some respects. But therefore, them leadership principles could be quite effective.
That's true. You know, because you put procedures in place and policies in place, and you expect them to follow it. You know, even though, as you say, the result for them isn't financial. You know, and it's more of a personal thing as well. You know, and their heart's in it, because they've come forward and say they want to do this. And then you kind of look at where you are and say, well, how can we go from here, and how can we get to here? You know. Yeah.
Fascinating, isn't it? Fascinating. We've had lots of successes, certainly personally and professionally, which is excellent. But I know Tom wants to get into this. I know
Well,
he's edging to get ahead.
I'm keen to know more about the work that you're doing at the moment, Anthony. So what's if there is such a thing as a normal day, but what sort of things might your week entail, and also kind of short-term, medium-term, and long-term aims for you. So what are you looking to achieve? You've achieved a lot to where you are today, and it's great to hear that. The next stage for Anthony, what are your thoughts on that one?
A typical week for me would be, because in my role as a professional development manager, I'm head of our NVQ Centre at TFL.
Yeah.
And so we have a level 3 learning development course, which runs. This is for all our training staff. So we got about 9 cohorts running at the moment.
Wow.
And so so we're putting people through that. Again, that's been a success. Just 2 Fridays back, we had a big presentation with the managing director. With 23 of them have gone through it.
Wow.
Which has been a real big win.
Yes.
Yeah. But then we also run some standalone courses which come out of that level 3. So there's a Unit 8 which is facilitate learning development for groups, and Unit 9 which is facilitate learning development for individuals. And this is like TFL wide, so we get lots of requests coming in for that. So because I guess the way business is going now, you have to watch every penny. Whereas previously we'd just be saying, yeah, it's okay, you can do this course. Now we have to. Everything needs to be justified. So we've had to. We've got a justification form which anyone wants any training. We send it out to them, justify to us why you want it, what's the reasons, because we was finding that roles were getting the qualifications and it had nothing to do with the role. They never ever used it. Okay. So that's one side of it. I've got a team of assessors which I manage as well. So, and I have to also manage their development because they want to develop as well. So they're always on to me about can we do this? Can we do these courses? I have budgets to play with as well, because we use City and Guilds. We use one file for our e-portfolio, and then we also do some training with the Training Academy program, just TAP. So all the time I'm raising courses, then have to go to finance to get them the finance for it. So is that day, and then I've got them calling me and saying have you got the PO number for this course so that we can get paid. So yeah, my work is very varied.
And it's really interesting there what you pick up on is, because now we're looking at another spectrum of, you've got all this professional development in TFL. People historically have been able to get lots of learning and get on there, and if it's linked to their role or not, then that's powerful, because you're giving people an opportunity to perform and learn, which is really crucial. Now what you're saying, obviously in particular, it's quite well documented in the general public that TFL want to be smarter with their spend, rightly so, because of the wider audience of people using the network. Now what you're saying is, that's fine, we've still got that, but we need to be a bit smarter and efficient of how we use our money. So you're not saying people can't go on it, we just need to see if there's more of a justified business output.
That's right.
To help them with that role. So your organisation's coming from, you were ahead of the game from a point of view of offering a lot of professional development. You're still keeping it, you're just reining it in a little. That's to right. Make sure your spends justify a little bit easier, which makes total sense, doesn't it? One and the other, they have to come together. That is the beauty of people organisation development.
That's a great answer. So thank you for that, Anthony. Just looking back a bit, drawing on your kind of longer term experience at TFL, it sounds like it's almost a college function within TFL. Was it ever different to that? Has it evolved over time? You've got City and Guilds you mentioned there, and that side of things has developed as well. But historically, were you perhaps linked with colleges, or did this kind of training not exist if you went back 20 years with TFL?
I guess going back, we always offered NVQs, but it was always externally provided.
Right.
But now it's internal.
Yeah.
Now we've got our own internal centre.
Yeah.
And we do it internally. Again, I get there's a thing around saving money that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of hiring someone in to do it, now we can actually do it ourselves. And what we're looking to do at the moment, we're looking to expand what we're doing and offer more.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment we're doing up level 3 qualifications. We want to take that up to level 4s, level 5s.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it is about developing our staff.
And I'm just trying to think a little bit laterally. Your setup at TFL is, quite a sizable operation now from the way you described it. Has anyone ever considered taking that and offering that outside of TFL? Or can you not talk about that? I don't know.
No, well, I guess the best way to answer that, it is something that's under consideration.
Right.
There is a lot of talk about, we can draw a lot in, by going out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably and the next phase of what we're going to be looking at as a company to what we offer.
Yeah.
Because as a company, because we as rail, we've got a lot of outside contractors who need qualifications who come in. So
exactly
on that fleet side and track side, we already do that there. But for the educational bit side there, we haven't quite got there yet. But I guess it's something. Yes.
Get it.
So you could end up commercially outsourcing to them partners who are coming in external who need the qualifications, which opens up a new realm of you're maybe paying for your internal setup because you've saved costs there. That's quite a smart business organisational development, right? Because what you want to do is you want to make sure you're giving the best through the cost of your team internal, because that is really, really important. But equally, you want to make sure, because you've got crossover being in such a big industry of rail, you want to make sure you try and recover something back.
That's right.
And that's very smart.
I mean, if you look at TFL itself, if you say to most people TFL, they'll say, "Oh, the underground."
Underground, yeah.
Yeah, that's because that's probably the main thing that people view. But if you look at the underground as itself, your pan TFL, you've got roads, buses, rivers, the Elizabeth line that's being done, streets, all that comes under TFL. So for us, from where we are, it's going out to those as well. Bringing revenue in that way as well. So there's a lot of scope.
It's huge scope, huge scope, and thank you for sharing. And I think moving on, Tom might come back to TFL, but I'm thinking now your wider stuff. Other organisations you've worked with outside of TFL. Tell us a little bit about your professional development through them processes, and what other things have you learned which enabled you to do what you're doing in TFL today?
Yeah, sure. As I say, I've worked in professional football, and there I learned quite a lot. I learned a lot, from working with people and developing people. Again, is what we did there as a team. Let's say, went from a steward to an assessor, and then I started doing the internal quality assurance role. So I got that qualification from working there, and that was really good. So that showed me from being the assessor to now being a person who's kind of assessing the assessors and looking at the wider picture of quality, and it just showed me just the markers you have to go through from when you start to how you get to the end, and then working with the learners, but as well as the assessors who are assessing the learners, and so it's developing the learners but also developing the assessors. And then obviously developing myself. So you say, I think possibly I was one of the first IQAs employed by a Premiership team. Because they normally bring people in to do that role. So that was quite if you look at highlights, that was quite a highlight. Something to think, wow, most if not any professional teams don't actually do this, but we had that. So that was a little tick in the box to say, and people ask me what do I do, and I say, I work for the club, and it's a plumber support in North London, So working for there was a sense of fulfilment for me, but also a sense of pride because I was working for the plumber support, and I was getting remuneration for it, but then I was also developing people at the same time. So as we said earlier, it's not much. I would have done it for free, just for the fact I was working for the club I support. And just watching people develop. It's all about that development.
It's fantastic, isn't it? And that quality assurance you learn, which obviously is it's all about learning, isn't it? I can see that with you from what you're saying. Your attitude is very positive and it's very forward thinking, and to pick up on the point of you would have done it for free, it just shows how committed and loyal, but also we're back to that intrinsic motivation, which seems to be the theme coming out of you today, which is that's a really important part, particularly for our younger audience who are maybe unemployed or who are in the workplace and trying to do well for themselves. It's sometimes, yes, we want to get the best material stuff, of course, but what we need to do sometimes is step back and be progressively ambitious is something I've always thought to myself, rather than being aggressively ambitious to achieve what we want. So that progressively ambitious is exactly what you're doing. The aggressiveness is cutting corners and avoiding people and trying to get from A to B as quickly as possible, and that's not always the case, and I think that's a brilliant example of that.
But looking forward, it has helped me from getting that qualification and doing that role in that setting, which is a smaller setting. If I look at that with TFL, that has helped me progress to where I am now. Because when I was at TFL, we never had an IQA as such. We had the centre running and we had assessors, and we never had an IQA. And it's through conversation, we have our personal development conversations. I said, well, I do that role. Oh, really? Oh, okay. We haven't got an IQA for the centre, because the centre was running at that time, and so they asked me to come in and help. So I was still doing my job as a design manager, but I was helping with the IQA, and then it just got to that point where that manager left, and it was a case of who can lead this function? Then yes, I'm doing it on an interim basis at the moment, but I was then thrust into from being the IQA now to being the centre manager, which is another leap
level.
Again.
So it's opened up the new avenues for you, which you knew you wanted to work with people and get the best out of them. You knew you wanted to go down that path, and you've embraced it through the right attitude and the right thinking to get to that point, and it's opened up doors for you.
It has.
And that's an interesting psychology, isn't it? Because sometimes you say, right, I want this job, and then you go down that path, which is what you said in your younger days. You didn't say you want that job, you wanted to be involved in training, which is slightly different sort of aim, isn't it? And sometimes it's about necessarily not looking at a job to go for, it's about what are your skills, what do you really get a lot out of it, and by being passionate and delivering that excellence, it opens up so much more avenues, because people grow off that warmth, don't they, and that positivity.
And I've had good managers as well, who've been really supportive, encouraging. We've worked together. It's been very, very supportive, very encouraging. And just showing me, it's there if you want it. And it's, as you say, it's not a case of just going and grabbing it. Sometimes you have to go through a path or a journey to get there. I remember one of the first things that when I met Graham, we was talking about, the first word he said was change. I've never forgotten that.
Yes.
Never forgotten that. Change. There's going to be changes, and people don't like change generally, But I could see it straight away. I could see, what we're doing at the moment is good, but it can be better if we change, and we change our attitudes and change the way we do things. And I grabbed it straight away, and I jumped on that change bus and off we went, and it really has helped me because it's helped. It's changed. It's changed the way I think, about how I was looking at things and doing things, and then going forward how I'm doing things now. So it's and you get certain people in your life. I always say, I say that you get people sometimes they're in your life for a certain amount of time, and you don't know why, but sometimes when they've gone, then you kind of figure out what they've done for you. At the time you probably can't see it sometimes, but when when maybe they're not in your life, they've moved on to do something else, or you have, then you think you can see where the link was, or where you was to where you got to just through that.
And would you say that's would you say you've got improved ability to embrace change now, Anthony, or is it something else that you're talking about there, which kind of
I think my ability to embrace change, because change is something that's going to happen.
Right.
You know, whether we like it or not,
Yeah.
it's going to happen. You know, and we have to be able to embrace it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we might like it.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable. It may mean changing of roles, or you know, but change is going to happen. You know, and you have to be able to embrace it, take it, and then see what is this and what can I now get out or do out of this. You know, or you go the other way.
Yeah.
You know, and you resist.
Yeah.
You try and resist change, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think I'd rather just go with it.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because you're right, change it's all about embracing it and where do you sit in all that. And most of it is fear as well, isn't it? It's what does this mean for me? And it's quite a complex, big subject matter. But you know, you've seen that, and clearly from what you're saying, you've just blossomed and embraced it because you've understood the psychology behind it, which is credit to you. And maybe that falls back to what we said earlier about that whole emotional intelligence stuff as well, which leads me on to our third and final question. So I want you to think about if you're an 18, 20, 22-year-old today, right? Think of everything going on in the world. So think of that type of person, and then also think of a CEO that you've come across, someone quite senior. Think of them. And if I can ask you to sort of identify skill sets for them two types, what sort of skills would you be saying to the 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds and the Chief Exec Officer? What sort of skills would you be saying to them that they really need in today's world?
Great question. Wow.
It's a big one.
I think of the 22-year-old coming into
into the workplace, or they might be in the workplace, they're trying to progress, trying to get to that next level, or they just want to be better at what they do. And then obviously that chief exec, the person who's at the very top, you know, maybe a small, medium, large organisation that's got a lot of people to be responsible for, a lot of organisational structure and hierarchy and costs and turning revenue over, you know. What sort of, it could be the same skill for both, but what sort of skills do you think that you really, from your experience, do you think that would encourage our viewers to think, I've not thought about it that way?
I mean, you know, as you say, the young people coming to work into the workplace now, they're very keen. You know, they're very keen, and they, I guess, from like say, if I was to look at myself at that same age, they know what they want to do. A lot of them, they come there, they've really got this vision about what they want to do. You know, and I guess it's fitting in with the vision of wherever it is that you are working, and then it's about, again, we go back to development. Everything goes back to development, you know, and about developing themselves, looking at what's in front of them, because you know there's some, you know, depending on where you're working, there's lots of career pathways, isn't there? You know, and knowing where it is that you want to go, and then looking at how do I get from here to there, you know, also thinking that I want.
So they know what they want, but what skills would you say that if you have this skill, you're going to get there? Have you got one in particular that sticks out?
Obviously, you got your driving license earlier.
Yeah.
Score lots of goals for your team as well.
Very good sporting wise, will be good.
I mean, one thing that sticks out for me from listening to you is change, you know, embracing change, isn't it? Because, you know, that's maybe one thing.
You have enthusiasm and drive. You really have to have drive, you know. Be resilient.
Right.
And diligence, you know, and you know, getting on there and going with it and sticking with it, because it's quite easy to, you know, start, get a little discouraged and fall off, you know, because it's not quite going how you want it to go. But then try to be the driver to make it go the way you want it to go, you know. As you say, it could be change. It could be certain things you have to do or change, or okay, it's not quite, but what do I need to do or get to get to that to get to that point? You know, is there something I need to do? Do I need to read more? Do I need to do a course? You know, and I guess it's asking those questions as well. Super. You know, and the people who are, you know, in the same field ahead of you, speak to them, get their ear and find out. You know, what did you do? You know, because it's good to talking to people and finding out what little things, get those little nuggets. You know, how did they get to where they got to? You know, but I think drive, determination, and the willingness to learn.
Yes,
it's key. You know, willingness to learn and want to learn, because you know, learning is not always easy, and it's, you know, taking yourself and putting those hours in to get it. You know, if I look at myself, you know, I've had to, as I say, walked out of school with no qualifications. but now I'm working in roles that it requires qualifications to get to, and I've in my later years of life I've got the qualifications to get me where I am. So it's not always it's a bit of a marathon, working. You can get it all at the start, and then you think you've got there, or you can progressively get there, or you can just keep going because there's a prize at the end of it.
That's an amazing analogy, isn't it? The marathon thing. You're right, because you can get academia first and then lots of experience, or you can get, in your case, lots of experience and then academia. And I think even today there's still both them routes, depending on your learning. And apprenticeships are a great way, and actually being at university is a great way equally. It depends on the person, doesn't it?
But I guess if you haven't got those, you can still get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
Although it's narrowing,
Mm-hmm.
there's still that possibility with all them skills you've talked about, that resilience, that diligence, that drive, determination, hard work as well to get to that point, which is amazing. Thank you for sharing, Anthony, and it's Tom's favourite part of the day.
Definitely. Can I just?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well, I guess from a CEO point of view, because you've got the business is there and you're driving the business, and I guess it's well, again, I always think about vision. What it is that you want to, what do you want to achieve, what do you want this business to do and achieve, and how you're going to get your people to get you there. So I always think about having. You can see the end, but you need to then get these people there. So okay, then roll it backwards. What do they need to do to get here? So this is the end goal. What we want to do, or we want to achieve, or money that we want to make. But then how do I get my employees to get me there? So sometimes you have to look at it and think, roll backwards. All right, and we need to implement this, that, the other. Again, we go back to change. Changing things, and and investing in.
So you're saying the chief exec might come up with a strategy and a plan which is well founded and well researched and no doubt very, very well delivered in its execution of what's being said and what the need is, but then that creates fear because it's change, right? So what you're saying there is that unless the chief exec puts mechanisms in place to get them support systems ready so all the questions are answered to achieve that goal, that makes total sense, doesn't it? And that's then coming out to your people and making sure that that's been consulted, and that's been, you get people on board, get them on that change bus together, and allow them to sit wherever they want, and they can even drive it, can't they, as we know, and get them to that end goal. And that is the real point here, isn't it? And your lived experience of that is, it's not just about organisational strategy, that's important. It's not just about people, that's important. It's about these two things having to come together, and that's what's going to make that success very, very smoothly. Yeah. And equally it takes time.
People, development. Yeah.
Key, isn't it? Brilliant, thank you. So this is where we get to be competitive with each other.
I'll wrestle.
No, you'll beat me, hands down. So
it's the moment everyone's been waiting for.
It has indeed.
It's it's beat the grift.
Beat the grift.
I don't know why I tend to bring his face in case you need a slightly larger version, a slightly younger version. But we think Graham's getting better with age. I don't know.
Okay, he keeps telling me that.
Maturing in age.
Well, I don't know. It's just,
he keeps picking up on my ears.
I think we could make that. I don't know. Obviously, we'll make it to a couple because that's not really nice. But there we go. So, I think have we got enough questions? Yeah, we have. Yeah. I think we have.
It's good to know, Tom. We're well prepared. We've got some questions for this.
Some questions.
And just for the benefit of our viewers, and I stress this every time, I have no clue what these questions are. Anthony has no idea.
I have no idea.
So it's off the cuff, and this is where we both get nervous. So here we go.
So we'll start with you, Graham, because you need all the help you can get, etc.
3 questions each. We're going to get
the main on sport, just to make sure Anthony's got all the background here. It's the first player of Beat the Griff to achieve 3 correct answers.
Right, okay.
If you're unsure of an answer, or if you attempt a question and it is incorrect, it's handed over, and we keep going until someone gets it. So you might just get a point for an out, really, if you're unfortunate.
By my default position.
Yeah. Right.
Here we go.
Great.
Right.
What nationality was tennis player John Newcombe? Was he A, British, B, Canadian, C, Irish, or D, Australian?
Oh my God, John Newcombe. Never heard of him.
Well,
so I'm going to have to go with Canadian.
Anthony, what nationality was tennis player John Newcombe?
Australian.
What?
Really? You knew
Did you know that?
Oh
You're
my
right, yeah.
gosh!
Right, yeah.
1-0
Straight in
to
there.
Ant.
Get it.
And gets the next question, so
Oh,
it's already looking
Can we shoot
bleak.
out?
It's already looking
you
bleak.
get sudden death. What's going on?
About which golfer did the great Bobby Jones remark, he's playing an entirely different game, a game I'm not even familiar with? Was it A, Gary Player, B, Tiger Woods, C, Jack Nicklaus, or D, Peter Alice?
Wow. I'm going to have to take a little punt on this one. Jack Nicklaus.
Was
He's
it?
right!
No,
he's
I
right.
never would have gone with
2-0.
Are you
2-0.
sure you didn't take a punt on that?
I did, I just took the
Oh
punt.
my
Yeah.
gosh!
Right,
Bobby
Graham.
Jones, I think
It's a must.
I'll-
Him and Tiger.
Uphill now for you. You've got a
It
lot to
is
do to
uphill.
claw this
Oh
back.
my gosh.
So,
Come on.
Graham, which tennis player, famous for her two-handed backhand and baseline dominated play, was nicknamed the Ice Maiden? Was it A, Steffi Graf, B, Chris Evert, C, Yvonne Corley, or D, Kim Cloisters?
I think it's one of two, so I'm going to go with Steffi Graf.
And
Oh,
which tennis player, famous for her two-handed
Oh,
backhand
that's
and
the wrong one then.
baseline dominated play, was nicknamed the Ice Maiden? Graham's guessed Steffi Graf, so you're down to Chris Evert, Yvonne Corley, or Kim Cloisters.
Cloisters.
Graham.
Okay.
Which tennis player, etc. Chris or Yvonne? Chris Evert or Yvonne Corley?
Evert. I think it's Evert. I'll be gobsmacked. if
You've
it's
clawed back.
Yes,
boys.
that was one of my
That's what you
two.
see. Okay.
Woo!
Who we have now? Ant, I think.
And
Yeah,
2-1 to Ant.
2-1 to Ant's question. Who was the Argentinian racing driver, 1911 to 1995, who won 5 world championships and was team leader with Mercedes-Benz, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari and Maserati? Was it A, Juan Manuel Fangio, B, Alberto Ascari, C, Giuseppe Farina, or D, Jose Gonzalez?
What was the year, sorry?
Well, this must be when they were born, when they died, 1911 to 1995.
Oh wow.
Can you read those names again, please?
I know this one.
Do
but-
you?
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure of the name. So
It's not your turn either, Graham. so-
okay, sorry. Go
No
on.
pressure, Ant. Juan Manuel Fangio,
Mm-hmm.
Alberto Ascari, Giuseppe Farina, or Jose Gonzalez?
Oh man.
The first one.
Juan Manuel Fangio.
Yeah.
That's 3-1 to 1.
No.
Is that what you were going to say, Graham?
That's Senna though, isn't it?
Said it was an
Senna
option.
wasn't an option.
I thought Senna, that was his real name, Senna or Prost.
He's Brazilian.
Is Brazil right? That's right. That's why I deserve
That's a
to
little
lose.
bit cut out. But okay. G. Oh, you've lost.
I've lost.
You've lost.
Thank you. Yes.
That's it. So,
Yes, I've lost 3-1. I love
I'm
it.
happy with that.
I love how we got the Australian one
3-1.
first. If I wouldn't have had a clue, I
That was
not
good.
Canada. I was thinking Australia, but I thought
Did you
Newcombe.
get any wrong? No, I think you got.
Chris Everett.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that was it. That's pretty good.
Chris Everett.
That's
I know,
pretty
that's
good.
Yeah, you know, she was.
That's why I went Steffi
But then,
Graf first.
when you say baseline, then yeah, she was a baseline, wasn't she?
That's impressive. That's maybe our best.
That was
competitive
really
we've
good.
so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you-
Really good. Well, yes, you are at the moment because you're 3-1, 3-1. So you are all to play for. Anyway, thank you guys. We're just going to come and start to close. So just to wrap a few things up, and I'll give you a moment to reflect. But what would be really good is for you to just close for a moment or two on what today's discussion has meant for you, and in particular, more importantly, for our audience, and what can they take from this? What can they go away? Tom, obviously for yourself as well, we've heard some fascinating information from Anthony as a professional development manager
Yeah.
and some of his experiences, in particular TFL, but also all other organisations, which has been a great insight. And obviously we'll see, gather your thoughts on that. Gather my thoughts whilst these guys are thinking. Just to say, obviously, when we post, please get involved. Give us lots of feedback on what you liked, didn't like about this pod, and in particular, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter what position and what level you are, but what we're really keen to hear is what really people, organisation development things did you hear. As always, what we're looking for after these 12 episodes, we're looking for people to sort of declare their top 3 guest speakers, and then potentially we'll get to a live scenario where we can actually invite you guys to come along and we'll do a live scenario about it. So hopefully it's been quite interesting. Thank you for your time. But before we wrap up, Ant, what's your final thoughts of our discussion today?
For me, it's been great to be able to sit here and share my experiences, how it's helped me to develop. I guess to say, don't give up. Have your dreams and your goals and go for them. But then put things in place for them to happen. Because without a little bit of work, a little bit as that drive, determination, and resilience, it doesn't always fall in your lap. So you have to. There's sometimes things you have to do, and I think you're reflecting. About reflecting. So I think when you kind of package all those bits together, it all kind of helps. If you're looking to get yourself, forward in your career in life, because you can use these things either way. That it will help you to move on. And then it's also about people, having the right people around you, and mentors as well, which I've been really, really fortunate to have. And listening and learning. Yes, it's just great. You can do what you want to do, and you can achieve stuff. So don't give up.
Super, well said, and in particular, like what you've said about you being here today to share, and that's the values of Pod Talks, and that's really what people organisation development is all about, giving the enriched network that we have to share to the audience, and whatever, if you're young going into the workplace, or you're unemployed, or you're a manager or a director, or running your own business, hopefully we can give something back. We've got such an enriched network, and that's really, really powerful. So thank you for sharing, because I totally agree with you. I think and it's been amazing to have you. Tom, your final thoughts?
I think it's been a real insight to speak to Ant today. It's been right from working hard to be the goal scorer for the team, which in Anthony's mind got him into that van, and then again he from what Ant says, he's worked really hard. Viewing personal development as a marathon is something that I'll take away from it, because it really is. You're talking about, you might get that kind of academic side at any point, but really it's all the time. And then you're driving the van because you worked hard, and then you've almost done it again, if you take that as a metaphor, and now you're heading up your own team in the training world, and that's great. And you've come back to the drive and determination element a number of times as well, which I think is a great message for anyone at any stage. And the other little bit I like saying, I'm thinking about this myself now, get the ear of people ahead of you to leverage that, and what a great bit of advice I think that is. So thank you for that, and I've enjoyed listening to you today.
Yeah, well said, Tom. And I would wrap up similar. The marathon thing sticks with me. I think that's an amazing analogy of, your career is a marathon, and try not to get everything to tick a box. It's about all them personal soft skills you talked a lot about: determination, resilience, diligence, hard work. Getting involved and wanting to learn, having a positive attitude. I think that's huge, hopefully for our audience. And I think certainly sharing with each other and being open to communication, listening. We don't hear that too often, do we? But being able to listen and ask questions to learn a little bit more. There's so many facets of how we can learn and how we can develop. So thank you both again. Thank you, Anthony, for being our guest speaker. Thomas, as always, our trusted lieutenant. Anything else to add from your side?
Anything else to add? I've just thoroughly enjoyed Anthony's presence here today. It's brightened the day, really. Had a bit of a laugh as well. I'd go back to the Beat the Griff performance today, but it was so ugly. It was just Anthony dominated, so I think it's probably too soon to talk about that.
It's a bit raw.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You need to give me some time.
If we're in politics, I'll be punching the bruise now. I don't think we've quite come to that yet.
I need a few band-aids or plasters, right? Whichever comes.
I think you need full cast arm and legs after that.
Okay. Well,
I guess I could say, when you said sport, I was like,
that's what I thought. He's picked golf, which is not my best sport going, but tennis is a good one, but I've never heard of them people. But anyway, thank you very much to you guys for listening, and obviously in particular for these guys. So come back and join us again on YouTube channel. Please give us your thoughts and feedback, and we look forward to seeing you again for the next episode. So thank you very much. All the best.
See you later. Thanks now. Bye.